Hello everyone, this is HuskyStarcraft here, back with some more StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm action. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video a little bit, although it's less for sake of time as it is for sake of space, because my parents' upload speed is currently 0.7 megabits per second, while in California, I have 25, so definitely a lot slower on the video uploads. Down in the bottom left side, it is going to be none other than QXC as our purple Terran. And up in the top right side is going to be our blue Protoss Whitera. So I don't actually have any idea who's going to end up winning this. Number one, because the matches kind of reset a little bit now that they've added in so many new units. Because players are unsure of exactly what their opponent is going to be throwing at them. But, I mean, we have the Warhounds now, we have, of course, the Oracle and the Mothership Core, and I'm kind of curious to see exactly when Protoss decide to use the Mothership Core. Do you get the Mothership Core out to go for early energy? Do you get it out to go for early defense? Do you get it out delayed so you can begin working on your economy more? I don't know what the formula is. No one knows the perfect answer to that just yet. Do you have the second gas going to be going down? Factory going to be going down here for QXC. I'll slow the game down in just a moment, but for now we're just watching their opening builds develop. And one of the things I want to mention super quickly during this game is that I haven't previewed the game, but I do want to say that, you know, the game's been out for a couple of days, which for you and me, that means kind of like, oh, you know, I've watched maybe a stream or two, I've watched a video here or there, and now the factory's down, I'll go ahead and slow it on down. But you have to remember that for the pros, they've probably played 100 games already. They're going to be having played at least a lot of games, especially the professionals who want to do as well as they can once Heart of the Swarm is officially released. So what that means is, long story short, that we could be seeing a lot more rushes out of these players. We do see what looks like a Warhound rush right now. SCV's apparently being pulled off the line here for QXC. You gotta remember, QXC I think only has one Marine. No, he's got two now, as that one did just spawn. But anyways, so there's no gentleman's agreement amongst pro players. You could, if you're playing Heart of the Swarm, you could try and be like, hey, do you want to have a gentleman's agreement because I'm still learning the game? And anyways, so QXC is saying, Husky, there's no gentleman's agreement amongst the pro players. Look at how quickly that Stalker dies. It's actually kind of absurd. The Warhound, a very strong unit, does 23 damage with a range of 7 and a weapon speed of 1.3. The SCVs are going to be in position to do this. I'm surprised he sent these SCVs so early, to be quite honest. I think Whitera actually was able to spot those with that Stalker that just died. But he could easily throw down another command center if he wants to. Decides to go for the starport here first. Could actually use this for a Viking to use anti-Oracle if that is going to... Oh, yep. Oh, nope. That's not a starport too. That's just going to be a gateway. But it does look like the Warhound going to start the harassment here. This is something that you're just going to see straight up a lot, I think, in TVP. Because, you know, it kind of reminds me, as a lot of people point this out as well, but it kind of reminded me of when the Marauder was, well, it's always been in the beta. So basically when StarCraft 2 came out, what you were seeing was a lot of Marauder rushes, a lot of proxy Marauder rushes even. So I think that's kind of what the Warhound role is going to be, because Blizzard even said they want to have a very robust unit from the factory. And, you know, they definitely found one in the Warhound that opens up a lot of early rushes that Terran can do. Really just gives them even more builds to utilize in the early game. And you can take a look at the Warhound here. It kind of looks like a mix between an SCV and a Thor. I feel like it's as if there was an SCV Thor love circle. Wouldn't be a triangle. It's just a love circle, guys. There's only two people involved, which would be a love line. But regardless, they made sweet, passionate StarCraft 2 love, and they came out. Their baby was indeed a Warhound. As he's just going to be camping these outside the base. I can't help but love the little shield he has right there, which they use for punching. If they're in melee range, they begin punching things furiously. And did that actually use the rocket on the... Did that use a rocket on the probe? I feel like that did, which I feel like is not actually what's supposed to happen there. Because, well, do probes... I'm kind of confused. They're a light mechanical unit. Does this do it mechanical or armored? Oh, I guess it is mechanical units. For some reason, I thought it was against armored units, but it is versus mechanical units. Which is, you know, the fact that something's mechanical doesn't really come into effect that much in StarCraft 2. So they are now adding something where it does indeed do more damage versus probes. I don't know if it's enough to one-shot them or not, but either way, it does look like QXC going to begin microing away here as best he possibly can. He does have the Viking for the anti-Oracle. Here comes the Oracle right there. He did fly right over the Marines. It is going to get taken out there, and the Marines are in a position here to defend against that quite easily. So you're going to be able to clean that one up. So unfortunately for Whitera, while he did delay the mining for a little bit there, it's not going to be that devastating because he did end up losing that Oracle quite quick. A couple of mineral patches still remain as far as being blocked there. But Whitera overall, taking a look at it, 1,400 minerals to 456 here lost. So Whitera definitely going to be way, way behind. He does finally have his Mothership Core out, which he did use to energize that Oracle. That's why that Oracle was able to throw that down so quickly, is he used the ability Energize right here on the bottom right side. You can see Energize. Recharges the energy of target or unit structure to maximum. Now, it's kind of an interesting choice. Do Protoss use that for more Chrono Boost? Do they use it for energy on the Oracle to deny your opponent's macro? How is it that Protoss are going to figure out how to use this unit? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. Right now, it looks like he's going to be creating, you know, well, he does have another Oracle here just going to be spawning out now. So could be going to continue to do that. Does he use it once again? It's almost enough energy here for the Mothership Core to begin using that. And yeah, I'm assuming he's going to use it here in just a second, because otherwise I think he would have already used it on the Nexus. Quite the range there on that. Is going to give him full energy now. He can easily fly out. He's got to be careful, though, with that Oracle, because there's going to be anti-air now. There's 2 Vikings over here. Now, the Oracle does outrun those units, but QXC is forced to play a little bit more defensive. And you got to remember that a lot of the new units that are being added here are, I think, to try and break up the big old death ball. I mean, if you think about the units that have been added for all the races, for the most part, except for Protoss, I would say, it's to attempt to break up the death ball. There he goes, grabs that, throws it down, and is going to go ahead and deny that mining. But yet another Oracle gets taken out. I got to admit, they're kind of fun to watch die. So even though Whitera doesn't want to really be losing those, I think it's kind of cool. The Mothership Core still chilling out. And you got to remember, it is pretty easy to get out of Mothership now once you have the Fleet Beacon, because you just upgrade the Mothership Core. You don't lose any mine time. There's some nice force fields, though. Finally going to help even up this basically one-sided units lost tab right now, as it is 2,500 resources lost to 900 for QXC. Now, the real question is Warhound a good late-game unit? Because you got to remember, it's a unit that you can get out basically at the same time you can get your first tank out. And versus Protoss, tanks aren't the greatest in late-game TVP. I mean, it's just kind of a fact. So is Warhound going to fill a role that Terran currently don't have, which is a good late-game mech composition? You got to remember that the Warhound does count as armored, and while their attack, you know, is reduced by the hardened shields of the Immortal, they still have a lot of HP. They still are going to be able to kill out Immortals. I think there was a video, actually, of Max Warhounds versus Max Immortals, or it was the same supply Warhounds versus the same supply Immortals, and Warhounds actually completely crushed through the Immortals. It was actually kind of absurd. Down goes Pylon for Whitera here, though. And what is he going to be adding on right now? Of course, he's got the Stargate. He's got a Dark Shrine on the way. When behind Dark Shrine, Mr. Sean Day9 Plot loves saying that, and honestly, it's kind of the truth. That's been the truth, I would say, since StarCraft 1, where, I mean, how you got to that tech was a little bit differently, but either way, getting DTs to try and get yourself back into a game is nothing new. They are such a strong unit if they go completely undetected. The expansion now finally up for QXC. He's dropping mules on these closer mineral patches as best he possibly can, but the charge lot's got to be coming up here. Now, you got to remember that Warhound doesn't do more or less damage versus certain types of units. Focuses down that poor little stalker, and the force field there does trap 2 Warhounds. Has it evened it up, though? He is still about double behind here. A little bit more than that, actually, so he's got to kill off some of these SCVs. He needs to kill off all the SCVs if he can, or at least try and focus down the commands here. A nice lift off there by QXC. A medevac is out to heal up these SCVs. That's actually going to be really good for QXC. But here comes the DTs. There's a missile turret on the high ground. 3 DTs almost get taken out there. One of the last ones that would have died indeed turns into an Archon. So how well do Warhounds do versus Zealots? Well, we're about to find out. They can't out-micro the Zealots, that's for sure. The movement speed is 2.75. The Warhound is at 2.81. But you got to remember that they're going to try and sit there and shoot as best they can. So the battle actually forcing the expansion back. The Archon trying to get some shots up. Ah, whiffs the force field. That's a huge mistake there for Whitera. He could have easily killed off all these SCVs immediately. So he's not going to be as far ahead as he would like, but he has evened this up a great deal. No longer more than double the units lost. So he's got to be careful here. Needs to retreat. And it does look like the Sentry going to escape. But remember, this attack, the Haywire missiles, they do additional damage versus Sentries as well. And Sentries don't have a whole lot of life to spare. As the Battle Hellions now in position to start dealing with Zealots. But the Zealots don't even care. What are their upgrades at? Actually, no upgrades here for either player. Such a low econ game as far as upgrades are concerned. Or would that be a macro? I guess I would say macros. The econ for Whitera has been pretty good. The Archon are going to be moving on up here. Has evened up the units lost. I feel like he's getting closer and closer to catching back up, especially if he kills those SCVs. Not today, though. Not able to get that lucky shot off. 2.81 on the Archon, 2.81 on the Warhound, so they're never going to be able to catch each other unless the pathing is really bad or something like that for the Archon for some reason. But here comes the DT. Gotta be slicing these Marines in half. That moment when you're chilling there and then you're immediately sliced in half. I didn't even see that Marine, but now he is definitely dead. And the DT is going to be slipping inside the main base. Whitera doing everything he can to stay on his feet, to do as much damage as possible. Should go for the ones on the building the missile turret right there, and could take out the ones on gas as well, which would be very, very good for him. He's going to be warping in more and more units here. And remember that DTs, if you turn them into Archons, it's a much more mineral-heavy Archon. So if you have a lot of expansions, it's going to be just fine. You can still save that gas for Storm. You can still save that gas for any sort of air unit that you would like to get, if he does decide to go for that Tempest. I was going to say Carrier, but I shed a tear of sadness knowing that the Carrier is forever gone. The DT's still harassing up here, 15 kills. As QXC is crumbling here under the harassment. He was able to get an early lead, but now, I mean, this is getting closer and closer. Only 1,000 minerals separate the units lost here. And if this DT keeps going, which he's not going to, seeking punched in the face by a giant SCV, then, you know, it's going to help even that up a little bit here. So Whitera able to catch back up. He's got his third base going down, and even though he ended up losing a lot in the early game, I mean, it just shows you in StarCraft 2 how hard it is to come back into a game when you get a little bit behind here. Is that another DT? Do I hear a DT? Okay, don't think so. Oh, he had indeed canceled that right there. So right now, QXC is trying to basically mass up Warhounds, basically mass up the Battle Hellion, but you got to be careful versus this many charge lots, because even though no one has any upgrades, the fact of the matter is that Hellions are still very difficult to use versus Protoss. We do have the probes. Got to be transferring on down. Taking a look at the unit stab. It is 51 probes to 40 SCVs. So even though Whitera has lost more, he is going to begin mining more. You can see that he's also spent a lot more on not only technology, but also on his army size. Economy isn't all that important. As long as your income's good and you have higher worker count, the amount that you spend on it doesn't really matter here. Now, it does look like the Hellions got to be moving up here. This is a completely undefended location. Only 2 Zealots, but they aren't going to be doing that much, especially since Blue Flame is nearly done. Is going to be warping in more units, but he stops to attack the Zealots, which means the probes are actually going to escape here. And yes, he is denying mining. Oh, does get a couple more there. I don't know how this probe survived, but he did manage to. And unfortunately for QXC, he stopped to attack the Zealots, which means the probes escaped safely. He did kill quite a few, though. 33 workers killed, though, by Whitera, as compared to only 8 for QXC. Most of the majority of those can really be attributed to that Dark Templar that got inside the main base, and Armory is going to be on the way in the mineral line, because why not? And might actually allow him to begin getting those upgrades, as far as attack upgrades, things like that, for his meching units, and more Archons are on the way. So Whitera, I mean, he's doing a very distinctive style. He's doing Zealot Archon versus this mech play. So we're kind of seeing the metagame shift around a little bit. Has Whitera found a unit composition that's going to be good versus the meching style of QXC? Should QXC go for more siege tanks? Should he start mixing in Thors? These are all questions that we really don't know the answers to just yet, but he is going to be roasting away a lot of the Zealots here. The Dark Templar just getting caught in the crossfire, even though he can't be seen. It does look like QXC, though, does clean out all those Zealots right now, so he is pulled further ahead in that unit's lost scans and takes out a DT as well as a pylon. Again, just kind of buffering that unit's lost as much as he possibly can. And you got to remember that Whitera doesn't have 200 capability of supply, so what that means is losing a pylon at some point. He's going to have to rebuild that pylon if the game keeps going. So that is directly affecting the game here, even if it doesn't straight on supply block Whitera. Now we do have Void Rays on the way, and you got to remember that this meching style doesn't have any anti-air. Look at this, 2 Widow Mines, 13 Hellions, 11 of the Warhounds. He does upgrade them into the Battle Hellions. We do have a DT in here hacking away. We'll keep an eye on him. See how much exactly he can do. If QXC doesn't realize the DT is hacking away, it will begin killing off a lot of these mech units. And here comes the charge lots. Is it going to be enough? The Battle Hellions in a pretty good spot to do lots of AoE damage to these Zealots, with the Archons kind of cleaning up the rest. QXC now is going to be falling behind, as Whitera does have the +1 attack. I think that these still have no attack or armor upgrades. But we do have a DT now down here as well, as he is at the 7 kills. The SCVs are forced to go nowhere. I don't think he meant to lift that one off, but he did, which means these SCVs actually have nowhere to mine now. They do finally land down in the bottom right side. This is the only remaining unit from that attack, and the charge lots, remember, they get a guaranteed hit. If they do a charge, the way they're programmed is that they will do damage. Here comes the Widow Mines, but Zealots, are they cost-effective versus Widow Mines? I actually don't know. I think the answer is yes. He's going to go ahead and run this guy in here to clean that one out, and it eats up some of the additional gas. And with no anti-air in sight, this Void Ray can go to town. Although, don't go to that town, because that town has anti-air. You just want to stay in the town without anti-air. It's like visiting my parents' house with no high-speed internet. If they don't have anti-air, then it's definitely going to be a lot of trouble for them to deal with it. So we do have, you know, I would assume Viking production going to begin. Yes, we do have a mothership on the way. You can see this bad boy turn it into a mothership right now. It does still take a little bit of time, 100 in-game seconds. Plus, I don't think you can chrono boost that because it's not technically a building here. But the Void Ray, I think this was a great choice by Whitera. At least force more Vikings, which means even less units on the ground. Void Ray most likely going to get taken out here. Although he is doing quite a bit of damage there. Yep, he is indeed going to fall. But the Zealot Archon making this build very difficult. You do have to remember, though, that QXC has never gotten any sort of upgrades. And that is going to be not good for him here. You can see taking a lot of damage. Yes, he has the armory, but there are no upgrades rolling on out there. As QXC has been losing base after base after base. Now, looking at the Warhound, what we've seen so far in this game is that they're very good in the early game, but in the late game, their DPS output is not as good as you might think. Part of the reason being that they're a very large, clunky unit. Imagine that damage output was Marines. If they microed like Marines, it might be a lot easier. I mean, it would be absurdly overpowered, but the fact of the matter is that you can't clump them up as much as you like. What that means is that in those battles, they're very difficult to micro because they're going to be bumping into each other. They're not going to be attacking. Half of them are going to be in the back, just kind of derping around because they're not close enough. But anyways, those like Whitera, though, going to continue being in the lead right now. QXC going to definitely be struggling versus this mothership now. He needs to make sure to get out enough Vikings, which he is continuing to produce those Vikings, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to even secure his third base, let alone deny the fourth base of Whitera, let alone be able to kill his army in the, well, it's kind of moving into the late game now, as it is about at the 25-minute mark. And no, mid-late game, all that stuff doesn't have specific timing, so it's like, oh, you're in the late game, you are at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. That's not quite how it works. It more depends on the progression of the game. Once the higher tech units start to come out, once you start seeing a lot of expansions, once everyone's kind of settled down just a little bit and fallen back to their macro, excuse me. So I would say we're transitioning into late game now, especially with the mothership out. We do see about a 40 supply lead here for Whitera. He's also got the upgrade lead. He's working on 2-1. While his opponent, I believe, still has no upgrades, unless I am tripping and I missed it. No, he does not. He does have a couple of Thors here, which Thors are very, very good versus Archons. You gotta remember that Thors do not take additional damage from Archons, and also Thors' damage is almost always wasted on whatever they're attacking, because look at this, 30 damage times 2, 60 damage, and I mean, how many units are not going to die from just a couple of shots? Like Zerglings, for example, that's a total waste of the energy. Zealots is kind of a waste just because they attack so slowly. But if you're going up against Archons, oop, a misclick there for Whitera. He says, let's even the game just a little bit. Let's delay mining on my own units here for now. Now, the mothership is kind of chilling out right here. There is still mass recall. Of course, it still has the vortex as well, but you can't ever turn this back into a mothership core unless you end up losing it. I think you'd have to, what, make another mothership core and yada yada. So he needs to make sure to keep this thing alive because it's going to be a long, long time before we see another mothership on the field, if he does indeed lose it. But for now, he's got a lot of Zealots, a lot of charge lots, and a lot of Archons here. So those charge lots going to be moving out right now to try and do some damage. The mothership has been revealed here, so QXC is going to realize, all right, I got to start saving energy for scans. Which, does he have enough energy for scans right now? No, he doesn't. He needs to make sure not to engage here. Actually, lifting off that main base command center, kind of interesting to see that, because he still has quite a bit of money here. I mean, there's 400 minerals there, 200, and still about 1,000, a little bit over 1,000 here. But the Hellions finally catching a break here, going to be running into the mineral line. Workers killed is up to 27. Finally could kill off this DT, but he decides to retreat just because there's a lot of units that could potentially reinforce right now. But a big attack going to be moving out on the right side. Can't believe we're actually going to be seeing a mothership here. Now, QXC has no siege tanks in position to deal with this. The Vikings have got to be careful. But all of a sudden, the meching style that Terran might be using a lot makes Void Rays very, very useful here. Might actually begin seeing them a lot more in multiplayer games, but there goes the Vortex. Does QXC hop on in, or how does this work out? I don't actually know, but the Archons are ready to go. There's even a Vortex up north. What is this Warhound doing? He's like luckiest Warhound alive so far. Then he decides to hop right in there. But here we go. Keep an eye on the supply, 71 to 137, and they are plummeting for QXC, realizing he has nowhere to go. It is going to be a GG out of QXC, as Whitera able to defeat not only Safana, but also QXC. And I do have some more games between these two players. So for the sake of making the video as short as possible, I'm going to go ahead and end it here, begin uploading it. I'm sure you'll see it in about a year. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys next time.